This video will show you the mental state of pedophiles that show the brain structure to further explain the sexual attraction to children and their further mental degeneration of their brain. This video may not be for everybody to mentally handle, so be aware you can always click off the video whenever you like it. The brain is truly a powerful place where unknown things are happening on such a large scale on just a small area that for just human is it still, with all our technology, still not be able to understand. Anyway, this video is about pedophilic rapists. Man, is this awkward, with the knowledge that I'm still a teenager. Anyway, this video is just putting up some theories why some people are attracted to minors. You may know Donald Trump and his friends, or those short stories about some people who did a horrendous crime, so foul that it's unspeakable of. And of course some serial killers who also raped children. And yes, the infamous island. I will get there, just not right now. Hold on, I have no idea how long this video will gonna be. The first question is, of course, the children. The brain of a child is still a growing organ in which it's affected by everything in its surrounding. This could mean the color of an apple, the shape of an animal, and of course human interaction. Children who were sexually mistreated, abused, assaulted, or raped all have their own experience with their trauma and their own way of dealing with it, which is a topic so large I could make a own video about it. But to not make it simple, will we be skipping this part, since this video will concentrate on the child rapist and not the victims. Donald Trump's mother was absent in his past, which led him not to develop a bond with a woman in his life at the start, which fueled his insanity and also enforced him to not respect women in general, since he never had a woman figure where he could learn respect towards women, which led Trump to think that women are just sexual pieces for self-enjoyment. Rapists like Ted Bundy had a rough childhood, which influenced the child's brain negatively, especially when they're grown up and start puberty. Children are like sponges who are taking everything in from their surrounding. They are easily manipulated and fragile, their bodies and so their mind. Those effects can be seen in puberty with violent behavior or high depression than the normal rate. Children who are raped are statistically more likely to become themselves rapists. Maybe because the mind became psychopathic in puberty in order to survive the trauma, or drowning out the trauma of having no control of the surrounding and the feeling of helplessness by becoming the rapist itself. Now, that was just one theory and there's more. The enjoyment of that's wrong has a long history behind it, as humanity grew more advanced throughout its history. The first signs were cannibalism, people who are enjoying the eating of other people's meat. People who do that are not interested in the taste nor smell of cooking the meat, but the fact that they are doing something that is objectively wrong. This understanding of its own actions is what lets enjoyment in those people, of understanding the fact that they are doing something wrong. One of those examples is the cannibal von Rothenburg. He was a cannibal who ate another man with the consent from him, who had stated that he wanted it. As they both met online, Armin Meiwes had a challenging childhood who lost a father figure at a young age from divorce and always wished for a smaller brother figure that would be there for him. This, however, doesn't make him a cannibal in my eyes. As he simply puts it, it actually started when he watched a film adaptation of Robinson Crusoe where another character gets eaten, but not because the other character is hungry, but for the character being a small part and a bigger meaning of it, and also being to escape, but with just the fact that he is dead and consumed. It's this where he started to see cannibalism as a beautiful thing. His crime was basically like this. After his mother's death, he went online to try to find people who were ready to be eaten, which was in the end Bernd Jürgen Brandes, who stated that he wanted to be eaten. Jürgen had a history in the Berlin prostitution, where a witness stated that Jürgen already made statements about wanting to be disfigured, in which in February 2001 they both meet each other at the Kassler train station, where they drove to Maivis home. At Maivis home is where Jürgen consents to his penis being ripped off and eaten till his death. And now my last theory: money, society and morals. There are three subjects to overstep morality. The first is to overstep the law. Breaking a law is not a political decision, but a moral one. Since you are doing something illegal, but others made it that way, because they think it's protective for their cause. Secondly is society. Society has created morals that build upon itself to create an order where all people can work together to have a future for all. To overstep that, must you think that your own self is more important than others, or society itself is outright lying? And the last moral is simply your own self. To overstep that is the most hardest one, since you need to betray yourself in order to get what you want, or you simply don't have any in the first place. Many of those who are overstepping morality are people from different areas with no real chances of an actual good life, or people from minorities who get discriminated in society or not seen as who they want to be seen as, or psychopaths. If you're a white cis male who has a rich dad, is simply life easier and you have more chances. This will influence your morality and how you interact with others. And what influences you is also money. Money in a capitalistic system is power at its finest form, and as we know, power over time corrupts and becomes more greedy. This led me to think that Donald Trump isn't a pedo at all, but just a corrupt fat fuck who loves to control others while also loving to watch them, as if nothing will hurt him, since he can just get bailed out. What you should also know is that people over time don't change. Their political position and ideas really stay the same, for which the only thing that changes is society and the surrounding. But people on the individual level just really stay the same, for which you can see that in Donald too.
When he disagrees with a matter of policy, he does it in a big way. Today, he sunk $95,000 into a full-page newspaper ad appearing in many papers criticizing the administration's foreign policy. Rumblings in the Trump camp point as far as the presidency. Could the Manhattan magnate be eyeing the White House, or is he just calling a bluff? Are you a Republican, Donald?
I'm a Republican, yes.
So if there were politics, it would be as a Republican?
It would be, I guess, as a Republican, but I don't see that there will be politics.
Why the ad? You wanted to say it. There's a lot of ways you can say things. I guess an ad is one way. You could have called up shows like this who would have been trying to have you come on. Why now?
Well, it was very easy. I was tired, and I think a lot of people are tired of watching other countries ripping off the United States. This is a great country. They laugh at us. Behind our backs, they laugh at us because of our own stupidity and the leaders. I mean, what we have a Persian Gulf situation. You saw what happened today. Billions and billions of dollars are being spent on getting oil for Japan, and they're not paying anything for it. Essentially, they're paying nothing for it. We have tankers going back and forth that our men are protecting, losing their lives. I mean, they're losing their lives, Larry. We're spending billions and billions on protection, and those tankers are going over to Japan. It's just preposterous. I watched the Kuwaiti oil minister the other day laughing as he was explaining how much money they intend to make with the Bridgeton, which has been a total disaster, the Bridgeton. And I said to myself, isn't that a shame? He's talking about how much money they're going to make, and here we are. He's smiling and laughing Why don't we get some of it? Why is it that we're protecting? We have frogmen, we have helicopters, we have aircraft carriers, and all sorts of ships all over the Persian Gulf, so that this man and his little group can make a lot of money. I think it's ridiculous. Why aren't they paying us?
We are kind of the world's keeper, are we not?
I don't believe we should be. I think Japan should certainly make a contribution. Japan is one of the reasons they're so successful is they don't have to worry about defense, because why should they worry about defense when the United States will do it for nothing? I mean, it's crazy. Saudi Arabia, I mean, you saw what happened with Saudi Arabia. We're going through the Gulf. We have old-fashioned, obsolete minesweepers. We ask Saudi Arabia for the use of their minesweepers, which are the best made, the most modern, the best, and they say no. Who are they to tell us no? We're not going to give you our minesweepers. It's ridiculous. They're only there for the sake of us as far as that's concerned. We are protective of Saudi Arabia. They should pay for that.
People are going to presume things.
Well, they can presume whatever they want. I have no intention of running for president, but I'd like the point to get across that we have a great country, but it's not going to be great for long if we're going to continue to lose $200 billion a year. You're going to get into the early 90s, 1990, 1991, and the whole thing's going to blow, because this country cannot continue to support Japan and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and many other countries that are much wealthier than we are. We're not a wealthy country. You can't be a wealthy country when you're losing the kind of money that we're losing.
We're a debtor country. Hello.
Hello, sir. Comment and a couple of quick questions. I think it would be really a big mistake for the United States to attempt to tax its allies for protection, because that would demote them to the role of a client state of the United States. And secondly, I think it'd also be pretty unconstitutional, because the Congress has the authority to raise armies and support them with taxes for the defense of the United States, not to be hired out as a mercenary force.
All right, Donald.
Well, number one, it wouldn't at all be unconstitutional. And number two, if you're talking about taxing, I'm not talking about taxing. I think that people should make a contribution, and a major contribution, other countries, to this country for what we're doing to keep their freedom and to keep them free and to allow them to be free. And would you rather have that, or would you rather see this country to go totally bust in another couple of years, because this country cannot afford to defend Japan and every other country in the world? It just cannot afford it.
It wouldn't be a tax. It would be more a payment in kind, like for landing space at airports, right?
It would be, you could call it anything you want. To be perfectly honest, I don't care what it's called, but I think that Japan and all of these other countries should certainly pay. They can well afford to pay.
Donald Trump's our guest. This is Larry King Live. We go to Toronto. Hello.
Yes, good evening, Larry. My question for Mr. Trump, it's a two-part question relating to international trade. Is the solution to the American trade deficit to restrict trade through protectionist policies, or to train American business to be more aggressive and entrepreneurial? And I'd also like to know if Mr. Trump would support a Canadian-U.S. free trade agreement.
Well, I think, just to answer your first part, I believe it's very important that you have free trade. But we don't have free trade right now, because if you want to go to Japan, or if you want to go to Saudi Arabia or various other countries, it's virtually impossible for an American to do business in those countries. Virtually impossible. And I have many friends, they go over to Japan, they can't open up anything.
From someone? Okay.
I know.
Okay. Ocean City, New Jersey. Hello.
Yeah, Larry and Donald, how are you doing? I have a comment and a question, then I'll hang up and I'll listen.
Go ahead.
First off, I really enjoy having Mr. Trump here. As a 32-year-old business person myself, I think he is a tremendous role model for young people like myself that look at him and write down their goals and strive to be better. That's the comment. The question is, I've always felt that NATO and West Germany, I mean, we have all those troops over there. I feel that they should pay their way. And then my second question is, and I'll hang up, is what other topic is near and dear to his heart? Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I agree with you on NATO. I agree with you on other countries. I don't want to single out Japan. I don't want to single out Saudi Arabia, but these are countries that people understand the kind of wealth we're talking about, and I will single them out. But there are many other countries and taking tremendous advantage of this, including NATO. If you look at the payments that we're making to NATO, they're totally disproportionate with everybody else's, and it's ridiculous. As far as other causes that are near and dear, this is the cause, because if we can solve this, then we're able to take care of something that I consider to be ultimately of ultimate importance, and that is the homeless situation, that is the farmers, that is the sick. We don't have any money. This country is busted. And it's busted because we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. If we had business ability in this country, we'd be making lots of profit, so-called surplus profit. And that profit, that money, could be going to defend and I literally mean defend our homeless and our poor and our sick and our farmers. And that's where we ought to be spending the money, not giving it to countries that don't give a damn for us to start off with.
It's, well, arrogance that he thinks that he is the best, the bigger person, and that he should fix everything with him as the leader, in charge. That's just the type of behavior that you get when your daddy is a billionaire and gives you everything, without working for it. It sounds so logical that people who have more money and more power are therefore more smarter, wiser and productive than others. But that isn't the case. In fact, it's somewhat could be the other way, since power corrupts over time, aka being greedy. Something that many billionaires in America are. Something that both parties further progressed, but Republican Party becoming more isolationist and then starting a war for oil because 9/11, and the Democratic Party abandoning the middle class with the upper middle class for bigger taxes outcomes. All along where Rich Epstein is starting to build his child raping circle. For this part I'm gonna explain how the pedophilic rape circle and the island worked, because I know you want to watch a video instead of reading just the Wikipedia page. Epstein used female sex traffickers to lure girls in his orbit for his sexual satisfaction. His close friend and associate Ghislaine Maxwell was the chief recruiter and sometime participant in his crimes. End of quote. In 2019, did the New York Times reported that also Sarah Kelly and Leslie Croft, Adriana Gross, Nadia Mashinovkov and Haley Robson were part of the recruiting team also, alongside with Rena O. In October 2024, did the journalist Nick Bryant interview John Bryant, in which she said that Epstein trafficked girls below the age of 10 from places like Yugoslavia, in which in the 1990s a civil war was going on. In the Policio magazine does it say that Epstein was running an enterprise at Royal Palm Beach High School, where according to victims' testimony that they were given to the Palm Beach police, would each teen get $200 if she brought a new friend to Epstein. This information spread around the school. It is also necessary to say that Palm Beach is known for its wealth, but its surrounding towns aren't so lucky. Girls from other privileged families are $200 a big deal, said the Palm Beach police. In a report from the same police does it say that Epstein once told a victim that he purchased marijuana at age 15 from a family in Yugoslavia to be a sex slave. As one victim says, something I think is very important to communicate is the loss of innocence, trust and joy. That is not recoverable. The abuse would be devalued beyond measure. My ability to form and maintain healthy relationships in my personal life. He could not ever begin to fathom what he took from us. Well, another victim says, things happened that were so traumatic that to this day I'm unable to speak about them. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe it. One woman talked about throwing herself off the cliff on the Epstein Island to try to escape the abuse. To explain the systematic manipulation, abuse and choices and surrounding of the victim, should I explain how concentration camps worked and how the last days were for many victims in the Fourth Reich. Before building the camps were transgender and homosexual people pushed out of jobs like teachers, police officers and judges to make it easier to think that they were greedy, lazy and stupid. Because if you make it illegal and then complain about them, is it harder for them to fight against it because they were a minority and are being gaslit that this said discrimination wasn't happening and that they are just paranoid, all along with the fact that you are actually just paranoid to the point you need an entire totalitarian leader to feel secure, alongside with the fact that they weren't allowed to own pets as to make it easier in the future to deport them to forced labor camps or death camps, aka gas chambers. By the time were many unemployed and many more when being a set minority. which by then the Nazis held rallies where they said to Jewish people to go a direction to get one. Many were then shoved in cargo trains, where then they would go on a big drive to either the two types of camps. The train rides had no pauses and were set cargo trains, so no toilets and nowhere to sleep. Many already died in those trains. At the camp's arrival would they be separated into two groups. The first who still make the train ride and were still seeing as strong enough to work, and the other group were the ones who were weak and or had disabilities. They were immediately killed for being not able to work. It is also necessary to say that children were immediately killed alongside with their parents, as to not cause a change of riots inside the camps. Secondly, were the camps designed to make the victims give a little bit of hope, so they won't protest and fight back. That's why the sign says work makes you free, even though you were very likely to be killed. Those who were going to get killed in the gas chambers were said that they should go to the showers, but before that should they make themselves naked in a changing room, where the wardrobe had numbers on them, to make the illusion that the victim should remember the numbers. They would be then shoved into the small room that had head showers in them, to make the illusion that they were really going to shower.
No, it's just a shower.
The door should be then closed shut, and a hole on the roofs would be open, where the Nazi soldiers would then drop in a chemical that would slowly kill the people inside the room. The clothes were burned, the jewelry sold, and the people burned too. Those who were going to work were shaved top to bottom to aka prevent diseases. Well, actually they did that to make the victims already traumatized by the dehumanizing behavior. Also why they were tattoo numbers instead of their actual name. To ensure that nobody won't fight back, that they Nazis treat some others victims better than others, so there is a infighting between the victims to cause the effect that they think that they are alone and therefore never working together. Well, the propaganda is showing peaceful and new victims on their pictures to act like everything is fine, while meanwhile everything is filled with diseases, brutality and engineered mass killing. Also the Germans or the people that lived near those camps known what was going on and lied when confronted about that fact, since they lost the war and were too scared to admit it. Also, no Germans were put in concentration camps, only political enemies, homosexuals, transgender folks, people of color, and of course Jews. So Germans who hit people of said minorities wouldn't be thrown into those camps. The same thing for officers. If an officer would protest, would he never be thrown into a forced labor camp. Those myths came from Nazis online in the beginning of the internet that tried to victimize officers and people who seriously participated in it, because it was after all profitable for them. You could say the greedy ones were in fact the fascists, since propaganda wasn't made to convince others, but just to convince yourself, because if you believe you're more right than others, you are more secure and better in debates, and this allows you to convince yourself again, making the illusion that you won, and that in the public eye is thinking that you act confident and secure, even though you are just gaslighting yourself because you cannot let others in. And that's really how fascist propaganda always works. They think they change the reality by trying to control people's perspective by manipulation, even though they are by reality still wrong, no matter how hard you try. I'm trying to explain this to you so you really understand how people, decisions and actions can really change a person's life and absolutely damage it, to the point where there is no help in sight. If you understand the architecture of the Holocaust, you will understand the architecture of Epstein and his island with his pedophilic rape circle. Speaking of his island, Little St. James, we need to talk about that too, I feel. The island had a main house, 3 guest cottages, a caretaker cottage, a private desolation system, a helipad, a dock, and a sprawling complex of residential and maintenance buildings. What is hard to say is where the crimes and rapes happened, since it could have been everywhere. Therefore, my biggest guess is just the main house, after all, since it's the biggest one, and that's where Epstein kept his stuff. Even the articles that are set as links by Wikipedia have no idea what the fucked up shit happened. How do you get away with this? You don't, you can't. You just prevent it for how much time you have left. One day it will come out and it will bring consequences. And that's just not some stupid conspiracy, but just the effect of people questioning things. The government show their files over time, and journalists doing their job, and private people falling down a rabbit hole to try to find anything of what is useful. The worst conspiracy that I can come up with is that Epstein simply didn't kill himself in his cell, and it was just hired FBI agents that Donald Trump bribed them, or any other of his oligarchy friends. As to put it lightly, Donald Trump flew 7 times to the island, so he had already connections to Epstein, which makes me think that they were once in time good buddies. In 25 was Epstein trailed for his illegal doing and was only found in prostitution involving minors, for which he got just 18 months. The judge was Alexander Acosta, the same guy who became the Minister of the Workers under Donald Trump in 2017. In the end, should the victims get what they want alongside with the public, and everybody who did wrong should be held accountable. I won't go any deeper into this rabbit hole because I have something to do, but it was nice getting off my chest for a second. Bye.